and welcome to The Content Bite, a podcast for freelancers who use their words to make money. I'm Rachel Smith, a freelance journalist, copywriter, and content producer. I'm also the founder of Rachel's List, a jobs board and community for Australian writers and other creatives.
And I'm Lynne Testoni. I'm a journalist and a content writer as well. Rachel and I are your weekly co-hosts, and every week we're bringing you all kinds of tips, tricks, and some fabulous guests to help you make the most of your freelance business. This podcast is sponsored by our good friends at Rounded, easy accounting and invoicing software made just for Australian freelancers and sole traders. It's everything you need to make freelancing easier. Find out more at rounded.com.au.
Also, if you're a gold member of Rachel's List, Rounded is giving you 20% off an annual subscription plan. Upgrade to gold membership for all the details.
Hi, Rach. Hope you're all better now. COVID really knocked you for six, didn't it?
It did, because then I had something else after COVID. Everyone said, you'll get sick with something else. And I did. I got this cold, so I still sound a bit nasally, and that's why. So sorry, everybody, that you have to listen to me sound like a wharfie.
Never mind. But this week we've got something a little bit different, which I think would be great, because we thought we'd get a guest who works in a different way than us, an agency copywriter. I mean, I love Mad Men, and we've all
Mad Men.
and we've heard the stories about working for large ad agencies. So we thought we'd be great to chat about how these agencies really work and what it's like working at the big end of town for the big brands.
Yeah, I think we've all wondered about the culture of those places. Obviously, Mad Men, is not giving us the real picture of what it's like today. But I think there would be some great stories, and I'm really looking forward to our guest today.
Yeah, I think it's a great topic, and I'm sure our guest has lots of interesting tales. So I'll introduce him, shall I?
Yes, please do.
So it's Damien Whelan, and he's a senior copywriter, and he's worked in Melbourne ad agencies for over 20 years. And in that time, he's worked on some of Australia's biggest brands, including Bunnings Warehouse, Officeworks, Myer, Coles Liquor, BMW, Mini, and the Melbourne Cup Carnival, and so much more.
Amazing. Welcome, Damien. So great to have you on the podcast.
Oh, thank you very much, Rachel. Thank you, Lynn. Yeah, pleasure to be here.
Tell us a bit about your background and your career as a copywriter, because you told me off air, came to it a bit late, did you?
I did. I think I spent sort of the first 10 years post-school celebrating it was post-school, I think I let those celebrations go on a bit too long. And I did a few different jobs, actually. Worked in retail and worked in a printing company for a little while, but eventually got into the marketing department of a educational publisher here in Melbourne. And that's when I first did a little bit of copywriting, and it was a lot of direct mail stuff is what they used to do back then.
We remember that.
Yes. So that gave me a little taste of what it was like. And advertising was something I was always interested in. And I was 28 years of age, and I thought, well, I was sort of at that junction where you go, okay, is this going to be it? I'm doing something, I really I enjoy. I was in charge of sort of the promotional side of things, so sending stuff out and marketing materials out to different parts of Australia. And then I thought, well, do I really give this a crack? And, copywriting could be a career for me. So at 28, thankfully, Mum and Dad said, yes, you can come back home for a couple of years. Went back to RMIT in the city here in Melbourne and studied media and communications. And that was really the turning point for me, I guess, where I decided, writing is something that I want to do now, and I want to make a career out of it, and I want to make a go out of it. And it went from there.
Wow. So moving to a big ad agency, would you say that copywriters specialize in either short form or long form type writing? Like if you're working on a big campaign and you have to come up with that one tagline, is that sort of a skill in itself? And then you have copywriters who work more on the long form side of stuff? Yeah,
I tend to think it's more of especially nowadays, it's short form copywriting. It's essentially, or initially, it's coming up with the idea. So what's the idea for the campaign? And then it's how is that idea going to be expressed in either a 30-second TV commercial or, a social post or a 30-second radio. So I'm very much about about the 30 seconds, I guess, like people have often asked me, would you ever write the great novel or, write a book? And I think, well, I can only write in 30 seconds. So I think I struggle,
30-second chunks. That can be the name of your book, 30-second chunks.
That's it. Very small chapters. Yes, but definitely there's a bit of both. And, sometimes there is a call for long copy ads, they're still around. You still see them every now and then. But I think nowadays we're such everything is so fast paced, especially, like your social media posts. Everyone's always scrolling. Everyone's looking for the best next thing. And our lives are so busy that the majority of the stuff, I would say, is short and it's sharp and it's straight to the point.
We're seeing like budgets changing so much, definitely in journalism and, in other areas of creative work as well. How have agencies changed over the years? Are you still working on really big budget jobs, or are you finding, you're being squeezed as well?
In my current role, I wouldn't say we're being squeezed. The Bunnings ads that I work on now, we've always been very nimble in the way we work, and that's very important. Like if we're shooting in a warehouse and we're talking to team members, we're a very small group. We haven't got these massive big budget sets or anything like that. So we've got to be the way we've got to move around, and we're talking about a warehouse, a retailer that's all about low prices. So it's not going to be a big budget ad. But I've worked on big budget ads before. Such as Bow Repairs did a fantastic ad that I worked on, which was 90-year anniversary, and that was probably the biggest one I've worked on, where we had to shoot on the Great Ocean Road and we were blocking off highways, and it was amazing. And it was almost like the polar opposite to the Bunnings ads that I do now. But those big brand campaign ads are few and far between. It's the everyday stuff that you do, I think, is you've just got to do it in a way that's efficient. Yeah, you've got to be efficient. You've got to be economical, and you've got to do it on budget and most certainly on time.
Yeah.
My understanding is it can be really hard to break into the ad agencies, particularly the bigger ones. Is that true? How would you start?
It can be. It depends on what's happening in the agency at the time, I guess. The agencies are very much a bit of a roller coaster in that when you're really busy and no one's got time to think of anything but what you're doing or see anyone. But then you'll have times which are a bit quieter, and I think that's the time where you might be able to have a chat to a freelancer who comes in, or a new art director, or a designer, or someone who wants to show their folio. So it can be hard to break in, but most of the big agencies nowadays will have a creative services manager.
Yeah.
And for a freelancer, I would say they're your best friend. If you can get in contact with them, get in their little black book, which they'll always have, because they always have a list of freelancers that they love to call on and who they know they can rely on. They would be the people certainly in the bigger agencies that I would be looking to make contact with and meeting with, and just showing what you've done and what you can do.
Oh, that's interesting.
What would that person be looking for in terms of skills, do you reckon?
They would be looking for an ad agency, ideas, and again, how those ideas can be expressed. So it's different, I guess, from being a writer who is good at writing to a writer who can come up with ideas for an ad campaign. There's sort of different skill sets in a sense, but I think, writers come up with ideas anyway. That's what we do.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of, have you got a folio of work that you can show that maybe shows how this idea would work in an outdoor billboard on the freeway or in the newspaper on the weekend? I think that's what the creative services managers would be looking at, and then so that they can then show that folio to the creative director who sits at the very top, or the executive creative director who sits at the top, who will give the nod to that particular freelancer to help them out.
Oh, that's so interesting. So ideas, that's great. Yeah, we've heard the stories about all-nighters and weekend work. When a campaign is launching, does that still happen?
Yes, it does. Not all-nighters. I can't say. The closest I've done to an all-nighter was like a 3 a.m. finish the night before a pitch, which was quite a few years ago. I haven't thankfully ever done an all-nighter, but and there's occasional call for weekend work. Again, if there's a big pitch on that you're trying to win, or the clients decided they want this campaign on air by Tuesday, it's just one of those things where you just do it, and it's thankfully doesn't happen that often, to be honest. Like it's not a weekly or even probably a monthly occurrence, but it happens every now and then, and everyone just pitches in and just gets it done.
Yeah.
I think as a freelancer, you are not obliged to do that. I think as a freelancer, the beauty of being a freelancer, I guess, is you can say whether you're going to do that or not. You say, look, I'm here to work from 9 till 5 or whatever the hours are. Anything over and above that, if you want me to do the weekend work or the all-nighter work or whatever, then you charge for it. That's extra. That's on top of what you're there to do. So I think the freedom and the flexibility is what freelancing is all about, and I think you can set those terms.
Talk to us a bit about a day in the life of what it's like for you being in the agency. Is there, I know in Mad Men, we keep going back to Mad Men, but they had all that percolation time where they were thinking, and they were in that room. I can't remember, it's like that creative room where they would play games or just be silly or talk about crap, and then one of them would just go, I've got it, and they'd come up with the idea. I mean, do you still have that as part of your day? Is that collaboration, or how does it all work? What's your day like?
Yeah, still is there in terms of you don't always get a long time to come up with an idea, but certainly that idea of yourself and as a copywriter will get briefed with an art director on the job or what the campaign is going to be, and then we'll either go off by ourselves for a little while for a bit of thinking time, or there's still that idea of just grabbing a room in the agency, putting some stuff on the wall, just writing your ideas down, and then just have we got anything? No, I don't know. So we'll keep going, and and then lunchtime will come, go and grab some lunch, go for a walk, come back, maybe something will pop into your head that wasn't there before.
A good old-fashioned brainstorm, really.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, and it's just getting the ideas out there, and eventually you'll come up with something that you both really like and that you'd be happy to present to the client and to go forward with. It's a matter of collaboration. People work differently. I like to grab a brief and then have a bit of time on my own just to read through it and jot down my initial thoughts, and then we'll get together as a team, the copywriter and the art director, and really start nutting it out.
If your team is really struggling to come up with things, do you have like swipe files and things that you've kept for years or collected for years that you go through, or is that part of it as well, the process?
Yeah, it can be. Like I sort of have a notebook that I keep pretty much on hand everywhere I go, because ideas can just come at any time, and you might think of something and you go, geez, that sounds great, or that's a great idea, and I put it in the notebook, and it may not be for any particular campaign, but you may find yourself in 6 months' time going back and going, oh, remember that thing I thought of way back when I was on holiday 6 months ago. So there might be just a little nugget there that you can, a little gem that you can use for that particular campaign that might make it easier.
What are some of your favourite campaigns you've worked on over the years?
I've really enjoyed a lot of the different clients that I've worked on, and especially a lot of the different people I've worked on in agency life. And I've worked with a whole lot of different people, and there've been some really great people that I've worked on. As mentioned, I mean, that bow repairs campaign was just amazing because it was my first real big shoot. That was amazing. Some work I did for the Melbourne Cup Carnival. There's a bit of a thrill in seeing your work all over town, whether it's on flags or
Yes.
a billboard. And you know how Melbourne tends to go crazy for the Cup Carnival, that your idea is sort of everywhere. Wherever you look in town, there's an amazing thrill in that. And the Bunnings stuff, I mean, is great. I really enjoy that, and I love talking to team members. I love being in the warehouse, and you're hearing different people's stories. Every shoot you go on, and we've got a great little team of people who do those shoots, and it's always great fun to do that work with them. And again, you're watching Friday night footy or whatever, and the Bunnings ad pops up, and the kids go, "Is that one of yours, Dad? Is that one of yours?" There's a thrill in that. It's great fun. There's one thing I'll say about advertising. It's been a lot of hard work, but it's been a lot of fun, and I've had some great friendships over the years as well.
Yeah, amazing. I know that the way that we work as journalists and in the kind of copywriting we do, when we're pitching to clients, we might be pitching a number of ideas, and then it will be up to them to sort of choose the ones they want. And I tend to think in ad agencies, you distill that one idea down and you do the storyboards and you present it as this one idea. Is that the case, or are you sometimes giving them 3 to choose from?
Yeah, no, we'll have a similar thing, especially in the very early presentation. So the first presentation back from getting a brief, we would always probably have a minimum of 3 ideas to go back. I think more than 3, and I think it starts to look like you don't really know what you want, like, or what the answer is. But I think 3 is ideal, because you're sort of saying, well, you could answer it this way, you could answer it this way, or you could answer it this way, and it may have 3 different ideas and 3 different looks to it. So you've got 3 different visual directions, 3 different ways to express the idea. We do, exactly the same thing. And then from that, the client will then generally choose one that they really like, possibly 2, but generally we'll find the one that they really like. And then it's a matter of, right, we really amplify that idea in all the different channels, whether it's, hey, here's how the TV will look, here's how the radio, here's how the outdoor billboard will look. And then you get a really comprehensive picture of the campaign.
That must be really annoying when they go, I really like idea A and idea C. Can you just like merge those 2 together in a hybrid of...
I'm sure that happens.
We love that. Yeah, we love that.
It does happen. And you know what? The answer is always yes. Yes, we can do that. Yes. No worries.
Gosh. So, okay, let's talk a little bit, because there'll be freelancers listening to this who will be thinking about going into agency work, and also thinking about how they can get paid, or how they could sort of negotiate higher pay. I mean, what would be your tips for them doing that, negotiating with an agency around pay and that kind of thing?
I freelanced a little while back, but I think that we would always agree on a day rate or a weekly rate, or if it's a longer tenure, maybe up to a monthly rate perhaps, depending on what the requirements are of the agency. But I would it's just about working out an equitable rate or solution for both of you, because you don't want to work for nothing. And agencies don't expect you to either. But I think it's just about coming to an agreement where you're both happy. It works out mutually beneficial for both of you.
It's interesting when you talk about day rates and things. I know when I've done agency work, is basically that's almost the first question. And there's say, yeah, you look good. What's your day rate? What's your hourly rate? Whatever it is. So you really need to have the answer to that question before, don't you?
Yeah, I would go in knowing that this is what I expect, and the agency might say, oh, that's not what we pay generally. We pay this amount, and if you look at that and you go, okay, it's not my top rate that I would love, but I'm happy with that. I can deal with it, without losing. Obviously no one wants to do that, but if you can come to an even playing field where you're both happy, that's the ideal.
It's slightly different to how we might work in some copywriting jobs, where you quote more on the project rather than a day rate, but agencies are very, very much still in that day rate kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely, unless it's a particular project such as a pitch. If you were brought in just to work on a pitch, then often there's a thing called a pitch rate, where it might be a bit higher than your day rate, but then there's that expectation that there might be some longer hours involved or some weekend work involved, but that's why you're getting paid that pitch rate, because pitches are just, it's a big deal. It's a big deal for agencies wanting to win new business, and it's all hands on deck, and there's a lot of work involved. So that's why there's the pitch rate as opposed to just your daily rate or your weekly rate.
Well, that's really good advice, isn't it? If you were having some kind of rate card and you had the pitch rate on there, it would show that you actually kind of knew what you were doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So why do clients go to an agency instead of a freelancer directly? I mean, is it mostly the size and the scale?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's the broad offering of an agency. It's the fact that there's you're going to get that full account management offer. So, you've always got someone to call, you've got an account manager on hand, you've got access to strategy. So, you've got strategy experts, you've got design studios. So it's it's your one-stop shop, I guess. I think it's just that level of service that certainly the bigger clients need and expect.
Do you think that perception that ad agencies are a bit of a boys' club, still holds any truth? The long lunches and the golf days and the decanter of scotch,
whiskey,
or whatever it was. Is there any truth in it, or not really?
No, not certainly not in my career, I would say, of 20 years even. And certainly not now, not today. Like, the creative department will go out for a Friday lunch, but it's everyone, and we'll go and have lunch and be there for an hour and then come back to work.
Oh, wow. Things have changed, Damien.
Yes. And change for the better. That's the way it should be. The boys' club is it just doesn't exist. Not that I've seen anyway.
Yeah.
And clients wouldn't be like that anymore either. They probably used to be part of that, but they wouldn't be now, would they?
No. You're dealing with everyone from all walks of life, and I think that's a great thing. And I think agencies are getting better and better at being more flexible with people and people's time and people's commitments, which is also a great thing. Look at me working from home today, and I've got to pick up the kids at 3 o'clock from school, and fantastic. The agencies allows me to do that, and I think we're getting better at knowing that people, yes, will put in the work, but we've got other lives and we've got other commitments, and people just need that flexibility these days. And if there's one thing that's come out of the last 2 years that's a positive, I think that's it. It's showing that we can do this from home and we can get the job done, and we can get it done really well.
Yeah, it's definitely getting better in that regard. I think that kind of approach of companies across the board to flexibility, that's great to hear that it's in agencies.
So what sort of qualifications do you think that writers or freelancers should need? Because I know for years it used to be always about award school, which is a bit of an ad industry sort of training thing, or is it more about your portfolio now?
It's definitely about your portfolio. I don't think award school is a must-have to get in. Like, I don't think you'll be asked, have you done it? I think it's always a bonus if you have. I think for the younger crew who are entering agency land, it's a bit more of an expectation that you'll do it. But certainly, I think it's more about just having a folio of ideas that you could happily show to a creative director or an ECD, and they'll look at it and go, yep, there's some great ideas in here, come in. I think in any job, our first gig is almost a bit of a showing what we can do. It's a trial almost, but if you can show that you are good at what you do and you fit in and the work's great, then you're going to be asked back. There's no one path. You may have been a journalist, you may have been a psychologist, you may have stacked shelves at Woolies. There's good ideas are good ideas.
Yeah.
And if you can show them, then you've got a good chance of getting an agency job.
What would be your advice to someone who is a good writer but wanted to move into ad agencies and had to kind of change their thinking in the sense of what you were saying before, like I think in 30-second chunks, and that's how I do it, to take that idea and distill that message down? How do you get better at that?
I think it's just practice. And I find I'm still getting better at it now. I think you just don't stop improving and getting better, and it's certainly a skill to distill whatever idea you have into a 6-word or 5-word headline that can go on a billboard on the freeway, or it's just a matter of practicing and getting to know the ways you can express things in as short amount of time as possible.
And did you find your course really helped with that, or was it more on the job stuff that taught you?
Definitely on the job. Yeah, there's nothing like being in an agency and showing a creative director your work and then saying, yeah, great idea, but it's too long, and what's the core of the idea? How can you distill this down into its shortest but clearest form? So yeah, no, I think there's nothing like being like anything, I guess, on the job, learning as you go. And as I say, I'm still learning now.
Yeah. Oh, I think we all are. You can look back on your old stuff and go, that was terrible. Oh my God.
Yes.
I sometimes like to see that. I go, that was quite good.
Sometimes, yeah.
I go, I'm better than I thought I was.
The really old stuff, you just never want that to see the light of day.
I know.
Pull that out of your portfolio.
Yes, a couple of radio ads I did in the early days, and I think, oh my gosh, I hope they are in the archives, never to be heard again.
Yeah, depressing. So do you see freelancers making specific mistakes when it comes to working with agencies or doing agency work? Is there any advice you'd have?
Not that I've seen. Like, I've worked with a lot of freelancers in a lot of agencies, and they've always been great, and we've always been grateful for the help. Like there's one thing other creatives like, it's freelancers who can come out and just come in and just share the load a bit.
Yeah.
So I've always been very grateful. I guess, if anything, you've got to be flexible in terms of what the client wants. At the end of the day, we're a service business, we're servicing a client, and we all want to stay true to the creative integrity, and to the idea. But there are times you've just got to go, well, this is what the client wants. Then, okay, we've just got to find a way to make this work, and I think just being an obstacle to that and not being flexible means that you'll become a problem for the client, and that means you're a problem for the agency. So there's sometimes you've just got to say, yep.
The answer is always yes. Isn't that you said?
Client's always right.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's right. So I have seen freelancers who've come in and have, just been that, no, I'm not going to do that. No, that's wrong, so I'm not going to do that. And you don't get invited back.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think be flexible, realize where the relationship is with the client, and you'll go a long way.
Great advice.
So interesting, Damien. It's so interesting. It's quite a whole different world, which I like.
It is.
Yeah. We often ask a lot of our guests about their tech tips, because there's always some new gadgets and stuff. Are there any useful digital tools you use and recommend?
Look, I wish there was. I wish there was a tool that just gave me great ideas and saved me a lot of time and a lot of bits of paper on the wall. But look, to be honest, I think for any copywriter or art director, probably your greatest tool will be your portfolio, and generally nowadays that's a website of some sort. So it doesn't have to be complex or anything, but it's just the easiest way to show your work and what you've done, because it's going to be harder to get an appointment and go in and bring your folio in and go through it with a creative services manager or a creative director, but it's going to be a lot easier to send off an email with a link to your website that shows your work. So I think your greatest tool, your greatest asset is a website that you can share really easily and just give people a taste of what you've done.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Look, so much to think about in this episode. Damien, thank you very much for coming on and sharing your experience and your thoughts. And I hope we didn't throw too many madman questions in there.
No, not at all. Absolutely.
I was tempted to throw more in, but I didn't want to be annoying. But I know our listeners are going to find this really helpful. So tell us where people can find out about you and your work, and perhaps follow you, that sort of thing.
Yeah, just jump on LinkedIn if you like, and search for Damien Whelan, copywriter. I'll come up there, and there's a link to my website and my folio on LinkedIn there. So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, and I hope it has been helpful.
Yeah, for sure. So interesting. Thank you so much.
Yes.
No worries at all. Great to chat.
Thanks, Damien. Thanks for listening, everybody. And thanks again to our sponsors, rounded.com.au. Easy accounting and invoicing software made just for Australian freelancers and sole traders. Yeah, and we'll be back next week, won't we, Lynn?
We will with another fantastic guest. And don't forget, all the show notes are in your podcast app, so you can head there to contact Damien. It'd be fantastic.
Okay, thanks everybody. Bye.
Thanks, bye.